Hello, this is Lamm, Howe's Lamar tutorial, and today we're going to be doing an econ video dealing with the Phillips curve. Alright, the Phillips curve shows the relationship between two variables, inflation and unemployment. So when we're drawing the graph out, we have inflation on the y-axis, and it's going to be denoted with a pi symbol. And on the x-axis, we're going to have unemployment. And to abbreviate that, we're just going to do UE. And the relationship is actually a negative one in the short run between inflation and unemployment. So inflation starts out high and unemployment low, and as unemployment increases, inflation decreases. And this is the short run Phillips curve. So we label that SRPC. And in the long run, that doesn't really hold up. So it is a vertical line, meaning no relationship, because a vertical line has no slope. So that's the long run Phillips curve. And we just do LRPC for that. And this point right here on unemployment is where there is zero cyclical unemployment. It's just structural and frictional. So that is the natural rate of unemployment, or NRU. And that is the graph.
Alright, now we are going to go over the shifts on the Phillips curve. This is caused by a change on the aggregate supply and aggregate demand graph. The shifts on the Phillips curve and aggregate supply and aggregate demand graph are mirror images of each other, meaning that if one moves to the right, the other will move to the left and vice versa. So I'm going to demonstrate if aggregate demand were to increase on the aggregate supply aggregate demand graph. So if aggregate demand increases, this is going to cause a point shift on the Phillips curve on the SRPC. So if we're at our natural rate of unemployment, since this moves to the right, we're going to have a point shift to the left. And now, if we have a decrease in aggregate supply, then we would have a curve shift to the right. Because this is moving to the left. So since this is mirror images of each other, if aggregate demand increases, we're going to have a point shift to the left, and if aggregate supply decreases, we're going to have a curve shift to the right.
All right, now we're going to go over some examples for the Phillips curve. So the Phillips curve is a mirror image of the aggregate supply, aggregate demand. Therefore, if as the aggregate supply changes, the short-run Phillips curve will also change. For example, suppose that resource prices decrease, which would cause aggregate supply to increase. Right here, it's RAS1, and I'll do the new equilibriums. 1, which would cause the short-run Phillips curve to shift to the left as they are mirror images of each other. PC1. And for the next graph, we'll show aggregate demand changing. So suppose that foreign income increases, which would mean that the exports for this country would also increase. Therefore, aggregate demand will increase. And I'll draw the new equilibriums. So what this causes is a point shift. And on this aggregate supply, aggregate demand graph, the economy was in long-run equilibrium, which is shown by a point that intersects the LRPC and SRPC. and then this economy moved into inflation, and aggregate demand moved to the right. Therefore, on the Phillips curve graph, the point will move to the left. And on the left side of the long run Phillips curve is inflation. And on the right side, if the point had moved to the right, that would be a recession. Now for our final graph, we will show how the inflation rate and unemployment rate tie into the graph. So for example, let's suppose that the natural rate of unemployment is 5%. And we're given an example where this country is in inflation, where inflation rate is, let's say, 7% and unemployment is 3%. 3%, 7%. We'll draw the little dashed lines. And let's suppose that the economy moves into a recession where inflation is 3% and the unemployment is 7%. 3%. And we'll label our point A, and it goes to B. And that is how we can depict inflation rate and unemployment rate on the graph.